All right.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am so grateful because today we have a special guest. We're here with Sonja Montiel, and Sonja is the founder of College Confidence Academy. Welcome, Sonja.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, Sonja. We both work with teenagers and their parents. Tell us a little bit about you and why you started working with parents and teens.
Sure. I think it started way, way back in 1999. My kids will be like, "You were like alive in the 90s," but yes. So it started in 1999. I became an admissions counselor for the University of California system. And it was such an extraordinary time. I loved the optimism, the energy that teens were coming in with to the office and figuring out how to get into the UC system. Working with college students was amazing. So that's where it all started, with college admissions. And then from there, I worked at a high school because I didn't want to represent just one university for a teen. I wanted to represent the opportunity of higher education. So I worked as a director of college counseling for a private prep school in California, where 100% of the students had to go to a 4-year because that was like our quota. Um, Loved the dynamics working with just the teen and their parents on what is out there and what is right for that teen. And then eventually became a private college counselor, so didn't want to represent a high school. I just wanted to work directly with the teen and families. So I really evolved over the 20 years working with teens, and then what is life like after high school. And then I guess my testing point was that I had my own teen. So going through the process as a mother, which was completely different. Just when you think you know it all, you become a mother of a teen, and was incredible. It was an incredible journey helping my own teen get to her. She chose the university as her option, and we really bonded through that experience. So that's where it all started. And then I'm moving into another direction, which is pretty exciting.
I love that you say that you bonded with your teen during that process because I think that gives parents great hope because often the story we hear is how it's tearing people apart. So thank you for sharing that that's possible. Tell us a little bit about this new direction because I know you shared with me earlier that being in this college admission world and helping parents through that shed a lot of light on what you see happening between parents and teens.
Absolutely. And I think that the baton was really me working with my own teen. And I think with all the experience that I've had, I realized that, wait a minute, I am coming into, it's such an honor to come into a family dynamics in a state of emergency. It's urgent. Parents are freaking out, they're panicking because time has come to plan for something. Their teen is like usually a junior, sometimes a senior in high school. The teens, they don't know. And so although it felt amazing to kind of be called to help the family, it almost felt like a rescue. And that's where the conflict was happening. I mean, I've observed so much conflict in my office, different types of conflict, disconnect, silence. Nothing was ever like we're building a positive relationship. And then with my own daughter, that was my common denominator. I said to myself, no matter what, I'm not sacrificing our relationship because of this process. It shouldn't have to be that way. So yes, I experimented a little, and it was amazing to be in control as a parent and say, I want to protect my teen from this craziness. I want to protect myself as a parent, and I want to enjoy my daughter through planning. This should be exciting, right? This should be like one of the most exciting milestones in our lives. So because I had a positive experience, and I don't want to say, hey, everyone, it was easy. Of course, if you have a teenager in the home, you have challenges. I don't think anyone's going to say, oh, raising that teen was easy. But in the long run, when we slowed down the pace, and I always kept her at center, I was constantly coaching myself. Is my daughter at the center of the process? Is my daughter at the center of this conversation? Slow down the pace. She's checking out, constantly managing my own thoughts as a parent, the words that I was using. I saw her saying, wait, my parents are allowing me to control this process. So, and with our recent news that we have young adults in college, we have mental health issues, mental health services have increased significantly amongst college campuses. So I knew that something felt very wrong. Um, we're pushing our teens to this agenda of what should be right or what is the utopia plan. And what's happening is the teens are following the equation, not knowing why they're there or how to navigate or what is the meaning of higher ed, what other options are there. So that's why I've worked on this higher level of parenting skills, working with parents instead of the teen. So that's my new kind of transition.
I love that. And I loved what you said too about recognizing that you needed to slow down the process and keep your daughter at the center. Because especially, this is what I see with moms who are like you and I, high achieving moms who want to get a lot of things done. And when you have so many years of expertise at this college planning thing, it's so easy to say, like, sit down, I've got this, I know exactly how to do this. And
Totally.
we kind of forget, like, oh, this is her first time through all of this. And I just see that pattern over and over again with parents is we think, I've got this. I'm so good at solving problems that we forget that we need to give our children and our teenagers that experience of figuring out and solving problems and mentoring them through a process rather than just be like, sit down, honey, I've got this.
Right, which can be such a dangerous thing. For many parents, there are a lot of motivators of why they kind of want to accidentally take over. And I know the intention is always for the love of their child. It's never because they want to, sabotage the process. It's never that. But there's a lot of fear in parenting when it comes to this milestone. I've seen parents be so fearful because they were denied opportunities as a teen. And they don't ever want their own child to be denied opportunities. And so they're so fierce in creating this environment where they are darn right their daughter's going to or son's going to have as many opportunities that were not given to me in my childhood. So that's sometimes a motivator there. The other is that, oh no, and I fell into this trap. So when I was starting the process and I was looking at Bella and I thought, oh, is she doing enough? Right? That's like the question, is it enough? And my daughter is a very laid back, non-high achiever. And I had to be comfortable with that because I am, like you said, described, I was a competitor. I was an athlete as a teen. I wanted to go for the highest, and that wasn't Bella. She was calm. She was very centered. She settled for things and was really okay with it. And so that conflict was all about me. And I really had most of the emotions that I had, I really tried hard not to accidentally transfer that over to Bella, my daughter. I had to internalize it on my own and saying, this is something I have to reflect on. And so when you ask her now, how was your college process? She'd be like, oh yeah, it was totally fine and easy, which is like the answer that you want, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of fear factors. And I realized, wait a minute, in order for teens to have a great process, parents need to figure out and dig up some stuff of what's driving their way of mentoring their teen. And what is some bias that might come in that they didn't see coming? And so my belief is that if I can get together with parents and kind of dig that stuff up, figure out, hey, this is some of the bias that I have, these are some of the fears that I have, combine that with knowledge about what college admissions is, then they're going to have the foundation of creating this space of time and place where it's like, let's grow together as a family rather than figuring it out, when deadlines are, a month away.
Yeah, how do we keep that centered place when it seems like the whole world is so focused around this college admission thing? Your child's friends and the neighbors and family members are all kind of, creating this big buzz around this thing. How do we hold some of that back a little bit?
I think there is a sort of rebellion. The fact that we don't. Why are we following the trend? Questioning the trend? Because if you dug a little bit deeper, then a parent would also discover that there is the same amount of increase in college students returning home. Look at college debt. Look at the rate of return in terms of job placement. So if we can be a little bit more, we tell our kids, like, be a critical thinker before you make a decision, really understand the issue before you make a decision. I think as a family, especially as parents, we can model that. Like, okay, everyone's saying college is right, but why is it right? And what are the benefits? What are the challenges and dangers of, going into this high debt, opportunity? So for me, that's why slowing down the pace is so important, because you're raising questions together. And going back to my process, and I did this as a college counselor as well. So it wasn't just with my daughter, but I got to implement to see if it worked. I allowed, teens, but I allowed my daughter to look at every option. There were times where she's like, I don't want four-year college. I want to do community college and transfer. And I said, let's explore that. What does that look like? Then she said, don't want college at all. I want to do gap year program, where you kind of do another program for a semester or a year before deciding to apply. We dove into that research. She wanted to be an actress and wanted me to talk to an agent. And I said, well, before I talk to an agent, let's talk about your accountability to that process. What are you thinking about? So she had the freedom as a teenager to kind of explore every door that she's earned. Right? I mean, I think that as parents, that's one of the goals, is to say, every door is open to you, babe, like, go explore it. And when she was allowed to explore it, she came to her own decision. I gave her like 2 weeks. We didn't talk about anything about what happens after high school. And she said, I've decided I want to apply to college. It was under her agenda, and that empowered her, and that made our process so much more smoother.
I love that, because I've been working with teens for a very long time, and the biggest thing that parents will say is, I want the best education for my child. And that is, I don't take that lightly at all. And a lot of the parents that I heard that from first had come here to Canada as immigrants and had worked so hard to get a high level of education for their children. So I felt the weight of that, and I thought, we're aligned here. I want that too. But the question of what's the best education for your child is an interesting one, because sometimes we think, well, the best education is like what, a Harvard education? And we can like name a top school and say like, that's the top level. And really the question is, what's the best education for your child? Meaning the fit, like what's a good fit? Like I've seen so much research that talks about people, you follow the script, you do well in high school, you go to a top college or university and you get all the awards and study and, become a doctor. And then you go home to your apartment and think, who created this life? I'm miserable here.
Right.
And so we sometimes lose sight of what a life can look like. So how do you help parents and teens come together on that, even around that question of what's the best education for this person?
Yes. One of the perspectives is to really understand the teen brain, because that teen brain is so much different than the adult brain, right? And I think one thing for parents to understand is the teen's life, their relevancy is present day, it's present moment. And when you look at the other factors coming in, the non-cognitive factors, they're worried about relationships, validation from their friends, social media activity, parent and teacher expectations academically. They're not thinking 10 years down the road when they run a family, which is what parents tend to jump into, like, oh my God, but when my little child becomes an adult, I want them to be successful and happy and secured. And the conflict is happening where the parents are talking in terms of future, and it's irrelevant to a teenager. And so that's why there is a lot of conversations like, you're not listening to me, or the teen shuts down and pretends to listen. So one of the strategies that I help parents with is really focusing on what's going right today. We look at things that are going well, talents and interests that are going right today, because that feeds motivation and inspiration. And so if your teen comes home and we'll just say it's music, right? And they're producing music on their laptop, there's so much amazing skill happening within that kind of arena. And to understand it more, like, oh, let me listen to some of that music. How did you kind of combine those beats? What's that app you're using, right? I mean, showing interest in what they love to do today can evolve into the future engineer that you wanted, right? But, and that's where it's like, be empathetic and stay in that teen brain and understand what's stimulating it, and then go with that momentum. And I know that it's easy to say than do, but being really, I call it like hyper focused, is really what ultimately protects the family from all this outside noise coming in, because they really then begin to understand, this is what makes a teenager tick. Like, this is his core right there. And then I wrote an article about Bella, my daughter, where because she remained so centered, I was learning from her on how to be the best parent. Like, because she remained calm and did not, maybe she wasn't as obedient that I was hoping she would be. She taught me a thing or two about who she was as a person. And then I kind of like followed her. And it was like this amazing kind of turn of events. And that's really what should be happening during that exit of high school into that young adulthood, right? That you should not be feeling like you're micromanaging as a parent. That it's too late. I mean, by that time, you're seeing them lead the way in their life. So I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Hyper focused on who your child is. And really, I think that really speaks to being able to help them identify what they're good at, because it's like being a fish in water. We forget that we're swimming in this water. Our kids forget that they might be really skilled at something. And the more we can say, like, that's really awesome. I can see how you're capable of doing this. Like, oh, yeah, I am kind of good at that, aren't I?
Yeah. Well, and then one of the things too that we want to jump, and that really amazing to me is sacred conversation, is when you're celebrating something going right, don't label it. Don't say, oh, look at that artwork. Are you thinking of majoring in art? Or there's this great art college, right? A parent wants to name things and label things to set the yellow brick road, but the teen just wants, hey, stay here with me. Ask about my artwork and my strategy of why I've created these different colors, or what weird doodling I'm doing on the side. Stay very present here. Eventually, when that teen's ready, we can start to name things. But what's going to happen is parents might say art major, and then the student's like, I don't even know what that is. I don't know. And they might end up being interested in science, right? But you're naming things early, and you're starting to, and teenagers hate judgment. We all know that. That's like a universal. And so you're almost like judging them and saying, this is the category you belong in. And again, that's where that conflict's going to happen.
Absolutely. And as an educator, I'll say we have these narrow boxes sometimes of what like art, that's useful for art, right? And it's like, no, if you can create art, that's needed everywhere, in science, in design. That way of thinking can apply to any discipline. And so
Yeah.
really helping parents see that, we don't need to find a direct translation into career path, because as you say, that can be super frustrating. Okay, I want to ask you, Sonja, about this one thing that I keep hearing come up over and over again in families, and that's the worry of, like, my child is determined to go to this school because their friends are going there, or her girlfriend is going there, or whatever it is. How do we keep calm as parents when we're worried that our child isn't maybe making the best decision about their personal skills or abilities or interests, but it's only about the social world?
Oh, that's so important. I mean, that social world is defining and validating who they are in their place, right? So for me, and I have to tell you a story, because when I was at the high school side, and I would have the couples, right? And they applied to kind of different places, except for like 2 schools that were the same. I would actually meet with both of them I would say during our college meetings, like, hey, do you want to have a meeting together? So the couple and I would be sitting, and then what I would do is that we would talk about each of their life goals. Like, tell me more about your college goals. So tell me, what if your boyfriend was going to be accepted to his dream school? How would you feel about that? And of course, there's that it's making them accountable. Like, well, I would be sad, but I want him to reach his goals, because that is what love is, right? So that was really helpful, because then and I'll get back to, like, from a parent's point of view, so that was when the time of planning, but when decisions actually happened, where acceptances came in, and it was like, can I let go of someone I love? Ultimately, because they've practiced it, because they've articulated to each other, I want this for you, it was easier to say, I love you so much as a friend or as a boyfriend or whatever, that I'm willing to temporarily let you go because of your dream, right? So in the kitchen, so now as a parent, and your teen's coming, and it's like everyone's applying to this university, I would say that sounds fantastic. I mean, first of all, as a parent, my inside voice is, whew, they want more than working at the sandwich shop right after high school. So that's a celebration. And then to say, wow, tell me more about this university that you guys are interested in. Tell me more about what's attracted to you. And then usually when a parent asks that question, the teen will be like, I don't know. I don't know about the university, but I just know that everyone is going to it, right? And so then the parent can be that mentor and say, I'm excited for you. I really love that this university is the one. Let's go visit it. Let's go see what other things are there that makes it so attractive. And so without bursting the bubble that, oh, honey, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just saying this because of your friends, because that's a judgment call. Go with it, but help them dissect that decision. And, sometimes it will be the right college, and other times they'll realize, oh, that's actually not for me. Oh, I could see why my friend chose it, but that's where we're so different, and you kind of dissect that with your student or your teenager.
I love that. It's like being so generous. Like, I'm excited for you. Tell me more. And then you can, realize those places where, oh, they don't know anymore. So let's find out together and see if this really is a good fit. Love that.
Yeah.
Sonja, where can parents find more of your work? Where can they connect with you?
So I have social media, but the big one, I do have a website. It's collegeconfidence.net. But if you're a Facebook user, we've got a lot happening on College Confident Parents. That's a Facebook group. And in that page, you're going to see free masterclass sessions. So parents can kind of get an idea of what it's like to be in a virtual room with 4 other parents. And we're all kind of talking about, oh my gosh, how do we communicate, options after high school? We do that in a safe place with just parents, so we don't transfer it over with our teens. And I'm also developing a parent university semester program where I am training parents to be the best educator in their teen's life. But yeah, those are the 2 main places. Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
Going back to a question that you had, how maybe to convince parents that, not to listen to the noise or the pressure that you have to go or their teen has to go to college. The last 3 years, I have had parents call me and say, can you please meet with my 23, 24-year-old college student? He dropped out. He's physically ill because of this stress. He is taking 6 years at a community college, playing video games. I think he's depressed. So as a parent, we have to ask ourselves, well, what is the outcome that we want? Do we want to force them through this equation and have them return home as an adult, lost as ever? Or do we start in the right place, slow down that pace so that they have the outcome where we say, we just want them as happy, successful, secured adults, right? So I just wanted to mention that because I see more and more of those scenarios happening.
Absolutely. So if you could go back in time and talk to some of those parents earlier, what do you think are some of the key pieces that as parents we can make sure that we have in our relationship with our kids so that they have a sense of what they want and the direction they're going?
I think I would love for, I mean, I love the growth mindset. So rather than praising for rewards, we should encourage for effort. Especially in the US, I know it's everywhere, where we're congratulating kindergartners for their trophy that they got home. So we focus so much on the hardware, but not the meaning of how a child gets to that achievement. That's like the slightest shift. Um, and also silence. I have this rule, like I like to share with parents, being very present the moment your child comes home from school. That was to me like the Bible. Every day when my child comes home from school, I am there. There's no phone. I'm not busy. I'm not like stressed out about my day. I am just physically present. And whether that child, my child wants to talk I have two. So one's a talker, and I don't even have to ask any questions. She just kind of just tells me everything about her day. And one's silent, Bella, my first one. She would just come home silent, and I would spend 20 days, 20 minutes being in her vicinity, maybe making her a snack, being silent if she wanted silence, maybe asking one question about what went well in her day, what didn't. But that, to me, silence is powerful, because when you're just there and you're saying non-verbally, I am here for you, it's created fantastic conversations that has lasted until now. So maybe those two small pointers if I was to go back in time.
Love that. Sonja, thank you so much for being here with us. And for our listeners and viewers, the links to connect with Sonja are in the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube, they'll be in the links there so you can easily connect with Sonja. Thank you so much for sharing your heart with us and for sharing stories from your own real life, because I know that makes a big difference for people to hear how it actually operates inside of your life as a parent. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on Radiant Mom. So honored.
Yeah, and thanks to all the moms who are listening. Join us again next week. We have new episodes every Friday. Okay, everyone, until next time, be well.